Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Playbook with yours truly, Joe Trahan, and the great, the one, the only Ed Werder here on WFAA Plus. Thanks so much for joining us. We're going to wrap up a convincing Cowboys win over the Jets, 37-22 at MetLife Stadium yesterday. Noon start, Ed. Noon start. Doesn't happen a whole lot in Cowboyville.
What exactly are we convinced of after that game?
I'm convinced that they can beat the Jets.
Handily.
With
Short-handed, they could beat the Jets.
With great aplomb, yes. And let's start there.
Okay.
Because I do think that Brian Schottenheimer and Dak Prescott deserve a lot of credit. Again, as we said, it's just the Jets. And I don't want to overblow this, but I don't have to tell Cowboy fans. I mean, you've seen where your team has been far less shorthanded and played a lot worse. But with 80% of your offensive line gone, your best receiver, your most explosive player perhaps, and Kavante Turpin, all on the shelf, and that Cowboys offense still performed at a high level against a bad opponent. And I put it this way, Ed. What I expect when you play opponents that I suspect are not very good, I expect to show some dominance. And I would say that 30-3 in the third quarter was the kind of dominance you want to see against a subpar opponent like the Jets.
Yeah, it was the biggest lead they've had since 2023. And to your point about dismissing it because it was just the Jets, who are now the only remaining winless team in football and the first team in history to start 0-5 and not have a single defensive takeaway. Just remember that, what was it, 3 weeks ago, they went to Chicago and played a winless team with a first-year head coach, and they were better equipped to beat that team, and they lost decisively. So, I don't dismiss what they accomplished yesterday. And quite honestly, I thought the Jets would make more of a game of it defensively, with the Cowboys missing 80% of their starting offensive line, and really – the player that's the lowest rated starting offensive lineman was the only guy they did have at right tackle, Terrence Steele. And for Dak Prescott and that offense to go out there and create a bunch of big plays and score, over 30 points, I think is quite an accomplishment for not only Dak Prescott, who's having, putting up MVP-like numbers early in the season, but, Brian Schottenheimer and the two offensive line coaches, Clayton Adams and Connor Riley, having, those four guys ready to play. Now, because essentially they played their preseason lineup, right, on the offensive line against the Jets, who are pretty good. You know,
Quentin Williams.
Quentin Williams was a guy that the Cowboys thought so highly of that Jerry Jones, when he called the Jets about their interest in Micah Parsons, that's the guy he wanted. Like,
Yep.
that's the equivalent of Kenny Clark, probably better than Kenny Clark, younger than Kenny Clark. And yeah, so they deserve a lot of credit. We all know that during the Jason Garrett era, not that long ago, if you lost your left tackle, you basically had to forfeit the game in Atlanta, right? So
That's right.
yeah,
Sack.
to do
Dak
what they
just got
did,
sacked again.
yeah,
Yes.
to execute the way they did, to give up one sack, which was really Dak just sliding down at the line of scrimmage, stay in bounds in the fourth quarter, to have 135 yards rushing, to have 100 yards out of Ryan Flournoy. I mean, that's pretty special stuff.
Yeah, amazing. And the stat that really kind of hit me over the head, you mentioned it, Javonte Williams and Ryan Flournoy both eclipsed the 100-yard mark in the first half, respectively receiving and rushing. That's never happened in a half before, at least since 1978, according to Cowboys PR. I started thinking about all the incredible Cowboys players and duos who could
Yeah.
have done that, who could have had, the
Michael Irvin and
ability
Emmitt
to do that.
Smith.
Yes, I mean, Tony Dorsett, Drew Pearson. I mean, and even more recently, I mean, Des Bryant, you could pair him. I mean, he had a
DeMarco
couple.
Murray,
He had DeMarco Murray, and then he had a couple of years with Zeke. I mean,
or Witten and Murray, or
right. There were a lot of duos who you would pick
way
before
ahead of this one.
Javonte Williams and Ryan Flournoy. But since we're on Flournoy, let's talk about the breakout performance by that young man. And the thing I really liked about him, Ed, was his ability after catch to seemingly never go down with the first hit or the first defender. He split a couple of defenders, he broke a couple of tackles. Um, and when the Cowboys made that great run when they scored 13 points in the last 50 seconds, 57 seconds of the first half, I mean, the first down that he got on a 2nd and 10 deep in their own territory was absolutely crucial. And he had to fight through two defenders to get that first down. And that's when the Cowboys kind of switched gears and went from perhaps trying to run the clock out to go full steam ahead and get really aggressive. Then he makes another big play. And listen, we know what things have been like for Jalen Tolbert. He's made a huge play last week, really big play, toe tap catch. When Dak threw it, 30, 40 yards in the air. Great play, but there's also been some inconsistent play from Jalen Tolbert. So, I mean, Ryan Flournoy really making a bid for some playing time, even when Cavante Turpin comes back, and obviously CD Lamb.
And not just because of the jersey number, but because of the out in nature sense of the whole thing. It reminded me of Miles Austin all of a sudden out of nowhere, exploding on the scene. And, in that case and in this one, I think the coaching staff will look at this player differently, in future weeks when they're deciding how to allocate playing time and who's the 3 and who's the 4. I mean, I went back and looked at my notes from when they drafted him in the 6th round. And, he said, my game is very similar to Des Bryant's. Now, I don't see that level of physicality in it yet. But Will McClay said at the time, this is a small school kid. He's moved around quite a bit, but he's a physical type player. They noted that he ran exceptionally well at the combine, although his speed didn't really show up on the one play where you're talking about breaking tackles on the sideline. Looked like he could have potentially scored. But his NCS score at the combine was the best of any wide receiver since Puka Nacua, who went in the 5th round to the Rams and is now an MVP candidate for the Rams. So, maybe this guy, maybe they found some untapped potential in this player yesterday.
And listen, Ryan Flournoy, especially these last couple of years at training camp, he has flashed a lot. I mean, anyone who's had the opportunity to go out to training camp, the name is quite familiar. And you'd been, I had been waiting to see, all right, when does that translate right on the field? And listen, that might be the origin story of one Ryan Flournoy. That game that CD and Cavante were both out, he got his chance. And the interesting thing that I noticed is, and I think it does go back to the physicality that you mentioned, that Dak was not afraid of throwing into tight window situations when he tried to throw it to Flournoy. And I think that's one of those compliments that a quarterback gives a receiver without saying a word.
Well, and what he did say about him afterward was, hey, this is a guy who wants to be great, and he'll tell you. that he wants to be great.
Mhm.
And what we saw him do on the field in his first big opportunity really is just representative of his attitude and what he aspires to be in the league. So, and you're right. I mean, he did have strong. He had a very strong camp last year. He stood out in the preseason, and then it just seemed like Mike McCarthy didn't really trust him all that much, and maybe there wasn't the opportunity for him that there is now. Although you think there'd be less of an opportunity when everybody's healthy, because now you got two number 1 receivers on this team. But yeah, he certainly distinguished himself yesterday. He had a great preseason a year ago, but I don't think anybody expected against the Jets for this kid to go out there and have more yards receiving in the first half than he had his entire rookie season.
No, it was fantastic to watch, and good on him. And listen, the bottom line is this, Ed, especially when CD gets back, when CD and Pickens are both on the field, whoever else is out there is going to get a lot of one-on-ones. And if you can show you can win those one-on-one battles, man, I'm sure that Shotty will figure out a way to get him involved. And I do want to circle back to Brian Schottenheimer, the play caller now, Ed, because another interesting component of this win, not just the 4 touchdown passes for Dak Prescott, but when I think about Dak Prescott, especially during the Mike McCarthy years, was the quarterback who tried to throw into a lot of tight windows. There wasn't always a ton of separation. And that's even, speaking about with CD Lamb and at times, when he had, Cooper there, other really good receivers, right? Brandon Cooks as well. I mean, still having to throw into a lot of tight window situations. I just want to point out Dak Prescott had 4 touchdown passes, 3 of which couldn't have been easier throws. The screen pass, as easy as it gets. The Y delay when Ferguson goes back across the grain to the other side, wide open. The running back fast to the flat when he hits Javonte Williams, wide open. And then, of course, the last one was the bomb. Great throw to Pickens. But of the 4
and
touchdown
that's as wide
passes,
open as you
3
get
wide
against
open.
Sauce Gardner.
No doubt, no doubt. And the ball was right there, and the way they kind of hand fought down there was, I mean, the ball was just waiting for him after he got just the smallest amount of separation. So kudos to Shotty because he and Dak understand each other. I think Shotty understands what makes Dak tick. Now, this will be the interesting part, I think. 5 weeks. What does that mean? All defensive coordinators around the league now, they've got the tape. They know how Dak and Shotty want to play this thing. I want to see what happens when opposing defensive coordinators make them try and play left-handed.
Well, the thing you're right about Shotty scheming people open in a way that we haven't seen recently in Dak's career. The other thing that's striking to me, and I was a huge advocate of this at the end of last season when there was talk about the Cowboys making a coaching change. To me, it was like Dak needs to be under center. He needs to be playing under center with the threat of the run game, play action passing. He needs to be like Matthew Stafford with the Rams, like Jared Goff with the Lions. And if you look at it, all 4 of his touchdown passes yesterday were off play action passes. He's tied for the league lead in play action passing. So to me, Schottenheimer, because if you want to run the football, and that's the way Jerry and Steven have known success, right? Over time, you run the football. And Shotty's talked about, we are going to run the hell out of the football. We are going to be, in fact, I asked him last week about Dak leading the league in passing attempts at 43 games. He said, no, honestly, that's not the way we want to play.
Not what we want to do.
The defense has forced him to play that way, right? We don't want to be that. We want to run the football. We want to be physical and control the line of scrimmage. And so if you want to do that, Mike McCarthy's not your guy. That's not what he's going to do. But that is what Shotty did. He's twice had a team that led the league in rushing when he was calling the plays. And so now we're seeing a more balanced attack that doesn't put it on the quarterback as much. And I talked to a head coach, Joe, in the offseason, and he said, hey, I really do. I want the job, okay? And I think Dak can win. You can win a Super Bowl with Dak, but you can't make it this hard on the guy. Help him out. And this is how they're helping him. They got him a second receiver. They invested in another first-round pick on the offensive line. They got Javonte Williams as the first player that they signed in free agency. And he's one of the top 3 rushing leaders in the NFL. And they've already scored more rushing touchdowns than they had all the last year. So, yeah, things are going well for Dak Prescott right now. And I think, to your point, I think Schottenheimer is giving him a play calling, game planning advantage on a weekly basis right now that he didn't really have with Mike McCarthy or Jason Garrett.
No, I think that's true. And you kind of see it play out, Ed, because the things that Dak Prescott needs to succeed, we are seeing happen, right? And obviously it starts with Javonte Williams and the run game because play action Dak is the best Dak. But the other thing that they have now is they've got a bona fide deep threat. You've got a guy who can not only stretch the field, but make plays when you do throw it up in George Pickens. And when you put those two things together, because if there's one route Dak had a chance to throw, I think it would very simply be play action deep over, right? He loves the route. He throws it incredibly well. He hit Fulenor yesterday on a great one, just in stride, not a lot of separation, perfect throw. And the way this offense is set up now, I mean, they could throw deep overs all day. I think about, last week, the one he throws to Turpin in a crucial situation. And it's really where Dak excels. And it's set up now to where he can do that time and time again because they've got the right components to set that play up to work. And I think that's part of the reason why Dak is seeing it so well. Dak is so comfortable, and then he's so productive. We're getting the best version of him because some of the things that Shoddy has put in place. And I should add to that, I also think it's obvious that Dak is doing a whole lot at the line of scrimmage now because he likes the way that this offense is set up and his options and the things that he can go to and the things that he can check to and the calls that he can make at the line. He's very confident in, and that has made him a much more confident signal caller. And that is why, while listen, the Cowboys just beat a really bad team. I don't want to make too much about it, right?
They need to beat another one this week.
And they better beat another one this week. But I do think this is all setting them up. And it's almost like this season kind of stair steps when you start looking ahead. It almost stair steps till that, week before Thanksgiving when things start getting really hard,
When you're
right?
playing the Eagles,
When
the
when the
Chiefs,
likes of the Chiefs and the Eagles and the Vikings and yeah, and
destroying.
then they come rolling through. It almost feels as though they're ramping up to that, and some of the things that you're seeing are at least promising, right?
Yeah.
You still got to go out and prove it, but some of those things have been really promising. And in terms of that, I do want to talk about the complementary football that the Cowboys were able to play. We hear this term all the time. Mike McCarthy talked about it too much, but we hear about it all the time. But yesterday was the perfect example with that Cowboys offense being able to capitalize when Maris Leofau
Yeah.
punches out the ball when Brees Hall fumbles, because it looked for the world like it was going to be 10-10, and we're going to be going back and forth just like we did the week before. But the defense makes a big play, and then the offense was able to press on the gas pedal, get a lead with all those points right before half. And at that point, we finally saw Matt Eberflus get some traction because they were able to pin their ears back. They get 5 sacks after only having had 5 sacks in the first 4 games of the entire season. And we finally saw some things work out for that defense.
Well, it's been a remarkable sequence of events in the final minute before halftime. Each of the last weeks,
2 games,
the Cowboys have scored twice in the final minute of the half. Joe, they've never done that before in their history. Since they've been playing since 1960, they've never done it before. They've now done it 2 weeks in a row, and both times it totally flipped the game. Right, scoring 14 points in the last minute of a half changes the complexion of the entire game. And to your point about Eberflus, the Cowboys finally playing from ahead with the lead. They went into the game this week. Dak Prescott had taken exactly 15 snaps in 4 games with the lead. 15 snaps in 4 games. Yesterday, after that sequence of events, they had the lead for 40 plays on offense. And so, first of all, they know Justin Fields is not the guy to drop back and exploit their coverage deficiencies, right? They mostly fear him running, which is a legitimate concern. He's one of the best running quarterbacks in football, but they did a great job spying him on occasion, which, Eberflus chose not to do with Jalen Hurts week 1. He only had 26 yards rushing, his season low. Dak had more yards rushing than Fields did yesterday.
You would have won that bet about 100% of the time before the game. Absolutely.
For sure. Getting the chance to play from ahead with an offense that was consistently building the lead until the fourth quarter allowed the defense to perform and succeed in a way maybe they wouldn't in a close game, because I still saw the Jets make a lot of plays running the football against this defense. I mean, Brees Hall had 8-yard average and became the first opponent to run for 100 yards against him. But you can control the game better, hold the score down if you're giving up running plays. When you're getting beat, like they were in the air every snap, you have no chance to compete. So getting a lead, that sequence of events right before the half was huge for the defense and really changed the game.
And that was the thing, the complimentary of it all was the fact that because they got that lead, the Jets couldn't do what they were doing best against that Cowboys defense because they were absolutely hammering them crease after
Right.
crease after crease. I haven't had a chance to completely look at the film. It can't be very good for Mozzie Smith. It can't be. There were too many creases on early downs when he's supposed to be the run plugger, and it was not working on too many times. That's problematic. Uh, but again, I think it just showed how these games can change really on a dime in this league. I mean, I think about, some of the other games. I think about the Cardinals game, the DeMarcado, the TCU kid, the fumble at the goal line when he shouldn't have. And that game just flipped, right? And this Cowboys game really flipped after Maris Leofau punched that ball out and allowing that offense to really be able to just mash on the gas pedal. And that I think that's something else I really like about Schottenheimer. There's an aggressive bent to the way he does this because I think he knows he has to be aggressive because of the way that defensive side of the ball is set up.
To be missing 80% of your offensive line, playing on the road, and to score 2 touchdowns on 90-yard drives. I mean, that says something. And he does. He reacts very well. When there's a scoring opportunity, man, he's on it. Almost without flaw. There might have been a few questionable decisions he made in the Chicago game, but generally, you're right. He's been super aggressive. I think that really appeals to Dak, too. It's really just unfortunate that if you look, they're scoring, I think, 4th in the NFL in scoring, just over 30 points a game. And the 3 teams ahead of them have all won twice as many games as Dallas has because the defensive liability on this team. So right. If yesterday was a performance that they can build on defensively before they get to the Washington and Denver and ultimately the teams you mentioned closer to Thanksgiving, then this team will have a chance to contend for the playoffs. It's all about whether they can do something on defense and keep the quarterback healthy.
And listen, I know we're ping-ponging back and forth here, but there are a lot of kudos to hand out, even against a bad team. And this is probably more, an early season award, but the job that tight end Jake Ferguson has been doing is remarkable. He's got 41 catches through 5 games. That ties the NFL record in that time span for tight ends. 41 catches in 5 games. He has his first multi-touchdown game in this game. He had that long span. He went a whole year without getting a touchdown.
Games.
And now he's getting it going. Yeah. And listen, if Dak can have him as that security blanket, it's almost like an extension of the running game, right? Because, on early downs, if they want to do a little play action or even if they just want to drop back, he knows he's got that outlet to where, listen, I can just keep the chains moving. And that's what this defense has done a really good job at. They haven't had a lot of the negative plays. In fact, I believe the stat was they have the least amount of negative plays out of any team in the NFL
think it was 15
so far.
Going into the game, yeah.
I think you're right. So when you think about that and you think about the way that this offense did not perform in the last couple of years, right? It was always that 2 or 3 yard run that will put him behind the chains. Then they'd have a bad protection. Dak would be running around for his life, and then he has to wait because he's got to try and get the big hit. He can't just settle for the check down. Now it's almost like he's free flowing, and he's like, if it's open, I'm throwing. I'm not waiting. If it's 3 yards, whatever. If it's 2 yards, as long as we're moving, and getting 3 or 4 yards, we're good. And that has really been incredibly beneficial for this offense.
I think the personnel department has Will McClay, Jerry, and Steven. I think they've done a better job of incorporating playmakers and giving Dak more guys who can make a big play, like Javonte Williams with a 66-yard run yesterday, Pickens with the 43-yard catch. Illinois. I mean, we all know CeeDee Lamb can do it. Now, if they could develop Jaden Blue into that kind of player, I mean, you look at when they would go to the playoffs, against the 49ers, they had Pollard, and they had CD, and that was it. And then Pollard returned before halftime, and they're done. They can't make a big play.
Right.
Now I think they've got a lot of guys who are capable of making big plays. Last year going into the season, Jerry said, "What, Dak? You have to do more with less. I made you the highest paid player in the history of the game. You got to do more with less." This year it was, "Hey, Dak, here's a starting wide receiver from Pittsburgh. Here's a first round draft chip pick to protect you from Alabama. Here's a running back from Denver who showed some explosiveness early in his career before he suffered an injury." So I think they're better equipped, especially if, like I said, they can develop some plays for Jaden Blue, get him in space. You got Turpin now playing a much bigger role on offense than he ever did under McCarthy. So the potential's there offensively. Just a question of what can they get out of the defense. And
No,
the defense,
right.
the defense has only created 3 turnovers, but all 3 of them were huge plays in games the Cowboys either won or didn't lose. Right, the interception in overtime against the Giants at home, the fumble that was caused last week right before the half, and then the one the other day by Leopold.
Well, here's the thing. If they can just hang in the turnover differential each game, right? As long as they don't lose it by 2, they lose it by 2, they're cooked because the defense isn't good enough, right? But they only win it by 1. I mean, that's not overwhelming in the NFL, but that was more than enough in a game against, a subpar opponent. But when you think about playmakers, I do think you made a really good point, Ed, because I didn't like that mindset from the front office saying, "Hey, listen, Dak, you're the highest paid. Now go win us the thing." That's
Right.
just not how this game works, and just even having that kind of mindset is like, wait, what, Jerry?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? I
Why
was like,
would you not want me to succeed after
right,
all that you invested in me?
exactly. It came off. It's frankly asinine.
Yeah.
Like you've been doing this forever, Jerry. Now you got to know how this
Yeah.
works, and
It
especially with
smacked of a
Dak.
guy, a general manager and owner who lost another negotiation to the player and
Yeah,
was spiteful about it.
yeah, yes, yeah, and he couldn't ship him off right to Green Bay because he knew he had to keep a quarterback because he wants to keep his franchise relevant, right? So the only only way he had to go was saying, "Hey, listen, it's all on you now, big boy, because
Right.
you're getting all the money." And it's just no. I mean, get creative. I mean, listen, the Javonte Williams move, stroke of genius. I mean, listen, we give Jerry a ton of grief, um, deservedly so, especially after last year when they did next to nothing in free agency. But this year, I mean, the Pickens and Javonte Williams moves have been amazing. I mean, Javonte Williams is so much better than any of us thought he could or would be, especially with what we saw in training camp, because they weren't hitting each other,
Yeah.
and we really couldn't tell how his physicality would impact plays and impact games. And now that you do, goodness gracious, he's got 5 touchdowns already. The Cowboys had 6 rushing touchdowns all of last season. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. So I,
Well,
I
they
feel
didn't
like
have
I'm
any
pumping
credibility.
sunshine tonight. I
They
feel like
didn't
I'm
have any
pumping sunshine
credibility
tonight,
on the
Ed, but
running back
kudos.
position. No credibility at the running back position after last year when they kept Zeke out of it,
Oh,
right? They brought Zeke back.
yes.
Oh, he's too important. We can't have him hit. We can't have him seen by anybody in the preseason. We can't evaluate him. We don't want anybody, but he's going to be good. Trust us. And then they play him for 5 or 6 games ahead of Rico Dowdle, who just had a 200-yard rushing game yesterday for Carolina. But yeah, I mean, Javonte Williams they were right about him. They got it right.
Yes.
And Denver didn't even know what they had. Denver changed their entire running back room out this year and got rid of Javonte. And I talked to people in Denver,
Yep.
and they thought he was a good player before he got hurt. He was never quite the same, and they really viewed him through the prism of a guy who's really just a third down back. Like, he can catch the ball, he can block, pick up the blitz, but he's not an every down kind of guy, and he's proven that wrong.
Yeah, has he ever? And listen, he's a smart guy. I feel like when Dak's going through his checks, Javonte goes to where he's supposed to go before Dak even tells him anything, right?
Yeah.
You can tell he understands the offense. The blitz pickup is fantastic, and he has just been an absolute revelation. And you mentioned Rico Dowdle. That brings us to the Carolina Panthers, who the Cowboys will face on Sunday. It's another noon game, another game that the Cowboys had better and should win. And that's what we'll talk about next week on the Playbook. I can't believe it, Ed. It's the fastest 30 minutes in sports, my friend.
Our time's up already. I thought we were just getting into that game.
I know, right? Right? So there's plenty more to talk about. And all you have to do is come right back here to WFAA Plus every Monday night at 7 o'clock. It's the Playbook with yours truly and the one and only, the great Ed Werder. Ed, great stuff tonight. Appreciate you.
Always great to do the show with you, Joe, and I'll see you at the Star on Thursday night.
All right. I'll see you then. And everyone else, have a great football night. We'll talk to you soon.